Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee with Lisa. I'm spiritual coach Lisa Hop. It is Sunday, August 16th, 2020. Coming to you a little bit later this morning. Just a late start, trying to figure out what to talk about. And I'm very, very glad you're here. If you're new, thank you so much for coming on. Welcome. Please check out my website at lisahop.com. That's LISAHOPP.com for all of my services, all about my books, why I do the work I do, and all my upcoming events. I'd appreciate it so much. Be sure to click on to get the newsletter at the bottom of the homepage. And also like and follow me on Facebook at my business page, Spiritual Coach Lisa Hop. Thank you again for those of you who are coming on week after week. I got a wonderful testimonial last week from Trish. Shout out to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your testimonial more than you can possibly know. And please know, everyone, feel free to give testimonials, even if you want to request something or maybe you want me to do it better in some way. I'll listen. It's my job. It's my purpose. I'm here to try and help all of us, you, navigate through the boot camp of this life. So I will take any advice that you want to give me and ponder it and maybe even implement it. So welcome again, all of my avid, intrepid listeners. So I had to get on a little bit later this Sunday. One, because I need to sleep in a little. And two, because I really was lost on the topic. There was so much I wanted to talk about. But I always like to tread carefully on some topics because this podcast speaks truth. But I don't necessarily want to be divisive or trigger in some ways. So I try to steer away from direct political topics and keep them more spiritual because it's more important to do that. As I said, I try not to be divisive. But the events of this week did cause me to do an aha about what topic I could speak of on Monday or Tuesday. I actually think it was Tuesday. We found out about the vice presidential nominee on the Democratic side here in America. By the way, for those of you who are coming from other locations, I'm in the East Coast of America, or on the East Coast. It's a very rainy day today, and I don't mind. I've been needing a day just to wear very casual, maybe jogging pants or pajamas all day and rest all day, watching movies, maybe having a drop of wine. Today's the perfect rest day to do that. I wish that some of this rain could go out to Colorado, California, Las Vegas, where it was 115 degrees yesterday. I wish we could donate weather to other parts. I think we actually can, with the power of our minds, manifest that. See what you can do about that. I know in the past, when hurricanes have come up the coast, a group of people have gotten together to try and what is called pray it away. But that's not really what they were doing. What they were doing was trying to use the power of their mind to mellow or divert the hurricane more out to sea to cause limited damage. And then you find out it kind of does that. You have to wonder or believe that maybe that group manifestation helped, because we can manifest with the power of our minds. So when you hear of something like fires, like bad weather, see what you can do with the power of your mind to work in making a difference. Your mind is so powerful, it can light up a big city all by itself. We just don't know that. We're not taught that. We don't use it that way. But we could. We could. And so that leads to my topic this week, which is breaking through the barriers. When the Democratic vice presidential nominee was announced on Tuesday, I'm going to cough, excuse me, or clear my throat. I have morning voice. I do have my coffee. I did have my coffee. But I used it a lot yesterday, the voice. So it's a little bit raw. But when she was announced, immediately, we started to hear blockages, barriers, expectations. She's a woman, so I'll put it to you this way. She was immediately described as angry, too ambitious, a man-woman, cold. But if she were more emotional, she would have been called too emotional. We have different expectations of what we expect about men and women. We love a sensitive male, but when a woman is sensitive, we feel she's not strong enough. If a woman's too strong, we feel that she's not acting right for her sex. We expect a man to be strong. And it goes that way at times with ages. We expect children to act a certain way, don't we? Or seniors to act a certain way. We expect even animals sometimes to act a certain way. And so, my topic today for you is how to break through the barriers, the expectations that are put upon you, to break your own glass ceiling. Because, in all honesty, the expectation and barriers that are put upon people are put upon them by people who have fear and don't think enough about themselves. When we are feeling less about our own achievements, we tend to like someone who we feel is lesser than. He or she is like me. And you can point out to them, but they kind of insult people. They can be bullies. Yeah, but that makes me feel better about myself. But when we're feeling very good about ourselves, when we have a high bar for ourselves, we tend to have a high bar for others. And so we want them to speak grammatically correct. We want them to be ambitious. We want them to be high achievers because that's what we see for ourselves. I am speaking truth right now. Look in the mirror. And I am my own study of myself. I was laughing with a client yesterday and telling her that I am my own project. And every day I watch what I say and I watch how I think. And I notice where I'm at. And I notice what needs to be corrected. What is a bias taught to me? What is a bias? Well, I know biases are wrong. So when I hear myself think something, I know it's not mine, and I work on it. I also watch where I am with my own emotions, with my own thoughts about my own success. I watch what triggers me as far as anger, and what tends to trigger me are other people's biases. Because why? Because I know I have my own. But also, quite frankly, what often triggers me is my own understanding that we are evolving as a world, as a universe, as an earthly world, I should say, as an earth, into 5D or heavenly energy. Heaven energy is coming to earth. We are in the end times. We are in the end days, heading into the actual age of Aquarius. We are actually at this present time in the dawning of the age of Aquarius. What they spoke about in the 60s, well, they were correct. In some of their songs, in some of their protests, they were correct. They were just about 50 years too early. And that's okay. It's okay to get a jump start, all right? But they were correct. And they struggled a bit. They fell behind a bit, hence the 70s and perhaps the 80s. But we're back on track again, and we know that we're coming closer. So this year is a year of uncovering the dark shadows, of healing what needs to be healed. That's why the past is coming up. It's not coming up to ruin your day. It's not coming up to threaten your lifestyle. It's coming up because it needs to be healed. Because it hasn't been healed yet. It wasn't healed when it was supposed to be healed. There are some things that should have been healed in the late 1800s that never were. They were carried forward from generation to generation. Well, now they're coming up. We now are understanding the truth of history in a way, because we were never, some of us, taught the truth. We were taught what our forefathers wanted us to learn, and foremothers, not exactly what was all truth. So all of that is coming up so that we can face it. We can face it right as if it was the mirror of ourselves and of our society and of our earth. Oh my goodness. I should have done maybe an elixir on my throat before I got on today. I excuse you. I excuse myself so much for those who love the sound of my voice, and I thank you. Because I get that a lot. I love your voice. I love your laugh. And thank you. It was given to me so that what would be a soothing voice, a powerful voice for change. So I feel today I'm letting all of my listeners down with my early morning voice, so I apologize. But back to the topic. So the fears of generations before you, the insecurities, the lack of powerfulness felt by our mothers, the strain felt by our fathers, that's all been carried over. And so today, when we're confronted by the flow of change, the time of change, we are confronting our past selves today. We are confronting our own fears. We are confronting what we know is best within the core of ourselves, but still makes us nervous, makes us anxious. So we huddle together in our groups, in our tribes, don't we? We huddle. That's why there's so much divisiveness and why we're locked up within our tribes. I kind of stand beyond two extreme tribes, but many will stay within their tribe. I'm also late today because I was discussing it this morning. I was discussing it within my own family unit. That it amazes me that there are good, sweet people that are locked in a tribe. They're locked in a tribe where they see people as they, and they laugh about racism because they are, and they're so hypocritical to the faith that they often proselytize about or prophetize about or lecture about. No, they're very strict with their religion, but they will insult another. They will slander and slime another. Well, that's not very Christian if you were to judge, is it? But they do it and they think they're correct. And because they're standing within their tribe that has decided that they are holier than thou, though they'll tell you they're a sinner, but they are still holier than others. And so they can slander others. and that is their tribe. But they know at the core, the light within them, that they are supposed to love everyone equally. And if confronted in who they are, they will tell you they do, and that you're wrong, and that how dare you. And if you don't like it, just ignore it and move on and unfollow me or unfriend me. They will stand solid within themselves, within their tribe. So you don't bother. You don't bother to call them out most of the time. Sometimes I call them out because I want them to have something to think about, even if they end up slandering me. I just want to put a seed in their heads as they move forward. But sometimes I say, it's above my pay grade. It's above it. And I'll just be me for myself, my tribe. And what is my tribe? Thank you for asking. My tribe, we're the light workers. We've come to Earth to help you to move into the energy of 5D energy. And I am not alone. There are millions of us. And some of us are your children. And some of us are you that are listening. And some of us are protesting. Some of us are not looting, but we are protesting. Some of us are standing tall in our belief systems. Some of us kneel when we hear a song, even though we'll have things thrown at us, words and anger, objects if they could do it. We turn the other cheek, oftentimes. Sometimes I have to let people go because they're so stringent. And there's no touching them. However, a light worker will always send prayers and thoughts and will always hope for the best. We light workers wonder sometimes if we're arrogant, if we think we know too much, but all we know is that inevitably this earth is turning to a time of good. It's changing for the better, and we must and we should do our parts. The light workers are working on climate change, on cleaning up the oceans, on fighting against unnecessary killing. The light workers are plant-based most of the time, or at least in farm-raised, ethical farming. That includes the seas and that includes animals. The light workers are making sure this earth survives. The light workers are the ones that will always show up to help you, or at least try to help you. They don't think twice. And it's not to say to those who are not light workers won't do that. They will. As I said, there are very good people that will give you the coat off their back as they tell you you're probably going to hell. But we're all in our place. And the true light workers know that they're not truly better than anyone. They just have moved along the evolution a little bit faster, and that eventually everyone will catch up. And we'll all be one in a world that is actually harmonious. Though there are some of you listening that don't know that you can believe it. If you can believe what I'm saying, and I'll tell you, okay, you don't have to. You'll see it in action. You see it in action now. See it. See it in the way that our diet is subtly changing. Sorry for the knock of the microphone. See it in the way that now there are protests all over the world, and they may label them riots all they want. But there are protests all over the world to help bring that change. See it in the fact that astronomically, our astronomical lineup is the same as it was during the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and the fall of Rome. Yes. The stars are lining up to this time as well. The planets, the solar system. We are in a time of change. So if you are one of my listeners, and there's probably very few of you, if you are one of my listeners that gets angered by the protests, gets angered by the statues coming down, gets angered or fearful by things, you're not a light worker right now. But the door is open. Some of us were born light workers, most of us actually. But it is not a privileged, closed group. You do not have to pay dues to join it. All you have to do is stop fighting against the tide. Just fasten your seatbelt and go along with it. And when you hear a woman who is accomplished, you don't have to like her, by the way. You do not have to like Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. It's Kamala Harris. You do not have to like her. But when you hear things about her, such as she's not warm enough, she's too ambitious, I want you to just stop and question, why are these things truly being said? Are they being said because of the truth? Are they being said because someone's trying to stop change? It's the second one, just to give you the quick answer. Try to go along with change. I am not saying, by the way, that you have to vote a certain way. I'm just saying that be very sure that when you hear things about someone, that it's not coming from their own fears, their own projections, their own insecurities, that it's truly the truth. Same with the news. There is propaganda and then there is news. Propaganda distorts. And propaganda can be found in trickles on every single news station. And sometimes the entire news station, news quote news station, is propaganda. Choose your stations, your networks carefully. You can have a trickle, but don't go completely slant. Don't go true propaganda. And I'm going to step forward and I'm going to give you a couple right now to avoid. I'm going to take that leap. I'm going to risk losing you by saying this. OANN. Propaganda. State radio. State network. Avoid it. It is your enemy. And I'll take a risk in saying that and getting in trouble and maybe even being slandered by people who like them and them. Fox. Fox is getting actually a little bit better due to one person. But they are not working for your higher good. Best to stay with a very neutral news source such as BBC. BBC just tells you the news and digs a little bit deeper to get the questions answered. Maybe it's the British way but they're just detached. Not now Britain, by the way, England. They have their own paparazzi. They have their own propaganda. They have their own tabloids. And they get in trouble for their tabloids. I'm talking about the BBC. I'm talking about their actual news. They just report it. And they say, well, what about this? And then they move on. They give it out. PBS is one as well. They don't have an agenda. They just want to report it as it is. What I love also, and I'm not a paid sponsor, what I love also about both, especially the BBC, is that they tell you what's happening all over the world. They don't just tell you what's happening in their own country or just our country. And they watch us from afar. And it's very healthy to become very astute as to how others see us, because a good number, not many, but about 35 to 40% of this country, America, thinks differently about us, about how the world sees us than the world actually sees us. When the last president was in power, President Obama, there were people that thought we had lost respect, that other countries had a negative view of us, and that was furthest from the truth. Now they think we have our respect back. No. I just had a client in another country. She said, Lisa, please tell me it's going to change. And it wasn't about money. It was about when we're a mess, the world falters. The security of the whole world is tested. And we are at a time right now, and protests are happening all over the world, when we are standing up for freedom and equality all over. When we're starting to stand up against corruption all over. It's all over. And even if you're not hearing about it on the news, the protests are still happening in Portland, everywhere. And so, the media moves on, but the people don't. And it's up to the people. And you know where is another source of information at this time? And you can trust me on this. Colonial Williamsburg. I may have spoken about this before, and no, I am not a paid sponsor of Colonial Williamsburg. They have no idea I'm saying this. They have put in nation builders, interpreters that are younger actors that have read up on, well, there are thousands upon thousands of papers, primary information papers on Jefferson, Madison, and all the founding fathers. Especially, of course, relevant to Virginia. So George Wythe, who has a beautiful Wythe house in Colonial Williamsburg. George Mason. They have a young George Washington, a young Martha Washington. They get on YouTube, Colonial Williamsburg Live, for free. And they will answer questions from you. And they address the current state of affairs. And they tell you how the founding fathers would feel about this time period. And it is so welcoming. Just from their papers. Just because cycles. Because we're going through a time in history that, remember the astronomy? Remember? They went through the revolution. We're going through a revolution now. Some people think we're going through a civil war now. Call it what you want, or that a civil war is coming. It's possible. It's possible. Maybe not to the same effect. But it fits. And so they're guides to us right now, down in Colonial Williamsburg. They have answered the call of history. So if you want to know also where to get your knowledge from, tune in or visit. They're a little bit limited right now because of COVID. Not everything is open. But talk to a founding father. I've got a founding father crush on, I think, most of them. I could literally be happy listening to young Thomas Jefferson, young James Madison. I would love to have a beer with young James Madison, who, yes, they're all younger than me, but they speak to the young Thomas Jefferson of 1781, of 1776, of 1775, of 1780. They get in that timeline. And yes, they were young. Do you know, oh my gosh, I feel like I am almost on a rant here when I started out not knowing what I would say to all you guys today. Now you can't stop me. But in our film, in our plays, haven't we always seen the founding fathers, except for Ben Franklin? Ben Franklin was actually old. He was the elder statesman. He was the eldest statesman. But every single one of them was younger. Do you know Thomas Jefferson was only in his 30s? John Adams was a young father. Late 30s, early 40s. These were young men. Young men risking their livelihoods and their lives to found a new country, knowing it was imperfect. James Madison predicted civil war because things were not handled enough in the Constitution. He was the father of the Constitution, but he didn't have the only say. There was a group of people in the southern states, God bless them, God bless them. They wanted to get rid of slavery, but they could not agree to it. It just anchored them down, and they knew it was going out. They knew it would cause problems in the future. And it did. They were right. They were prophets. They knew. And we're still working on it today. We're still working on it. Men are still not entirely free. If we're not chained down by our race, we're chained down by our economics. We're chained down by our sexism. And you see this week misogyny and racism. And it's going to get worse before November. Because one party feels they have nothing else to go on, I guess. So they're going to bring somebody down because of her parents. And because of her sex. That's not right. And as I said, you can feel however you want about a person. But is it right to bring them down because of who bore them? Where they went to school? Where they came from? No, of course not. We're all equal. We're all one. We're not supposed to judge, by the way. But of course we judge. We're human. I don't judge a person by their political party. I don't judge a person by their race. I don't judge a person by their sex. I do tend to judge people by who they are as a person. If they're hateful, if they're a bully, if they're not good inside, it's hard not to judge. Especially because they're choosing to be that way. They're not saying every day when they wake up, I wish I weren't like this. I'd like to be a better person. If they're really accepting who they are and they're saying, here I am, love me. Well, I guess there's some goodness to that, and that they're honest with themselves about who they are. And that they do want to be loved, and I guess we should love them. We can love someone and not like them. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to support them or support them with their ambitions. I'm not going to be a part of that energy. That energy has to work its way out. It has to work on its own. So back to the topic. You listening to me, whether you are a male or a female, no matter what race you are, no matter what economic status you are, you have had the biases of others, the expectations of others put on you. When I was young, I think I've said this story before, but it applies today. I was decided while I was working to do a side job of selling jewelry. And I remember the first day when I asked someone if they wanted to buy it. She was actually a good friend at the time. She said, "What do you get out of it?" And I remember thinking, why is she asking me that? Of course I'm trying to get something out of it, or I wouldn't be selling it. And she calls me to put a wall up. And the wall was so thick and so large that actually prevented sales. I actually felt bad about selling the jewelry because I thought, is she thinking I'm taking advantage of people? She had me questioning myself prospering. We have to make sure that we're not living our lives according to the will of others. If you want to go for the job and not one person around you likes it, but you want to go for it, go for it. You are not to be labeled by what others would say or think of you. I admire people that go for it. I admire people with with good ambition. What I mean by that is we should never step on another. But can we gently toss someone aside or step around them to go higher up the ladder? Absolutely. We should always treat others the way we wish to be treated. We should try not to burn others as we go up the ladder. But we should also never, with all caps, never, not go up the ladder of our lives because someone tells us we don't have that right. We should always want to be different because we are unique. We are unique. There is nobody else like you on this earth, in this universe. You are here as a special, unique peg in the wheel of this world. The world would be different without you. So you have to go for it. You have to set your own course. So when someone tells you that you shouldn't start a business, and when you start a business that you're charging too much, you don't dare listen. You charge your value. When someone says, and this may trigger you again, when someone says that someone like Reverend Joel Osteen shouldn't have a big house, I have no problem with Joel Osteen having a big house. I have no problem with him having a fancy car. He sells books. He has a message, and it is often, most of the time, a very good message. He's inspirational at times. However, when there's a flood, Joel Osteen should open up his church. He should be the first on the scene when help is needed, if he is to be a pastor of a church. Don't you think? We have sometimes this thought that if you are spiritual, you should not have wealth, that you should be poor. That is our own biases. And that's us coming from our own projections. We feel, it comes back to a misteaching about the Bible, that the whole eye of the needle. Yes, if you're all about the money and not about serving, you're going to get a great review that's going to hammer you on that. But it doesn't mean that you lose your shot at heaven. But if you are all about yourself and never open your gate to anyone, never offer your coat, never give a charitable donation, never smile at anyone, it will be hard. Your review will be painful. But it is not my right to say that you're going to hell. I can get a good notion about who might, but I do also know that I am not at that level to decide it. I am not at the level of God. That is not my role. But do I know who is evil and who is not? Absolutely. Do I know who may have a harder review than others? Yes, I do. Do I know who's going to learn a lot? And I wish I were there to listen to them go, "You got to be kidding me. I didn't know." Yes, that's my human side. I do wish I could be there to give a listen in. As I hope myself, and I work every day to have the best possible review I can, and know myself that there will be things I'm hammered for. The times when I was not kind. The times I didn't love myself when I should have. The times when I was more focused on how much salary am I making today rather than all about service. But also the times when I made more of a difference than I realized. I will have an emotional review, as all of you will. But to those who are the worst among us, the least caring, the coldest, the most selfish, the evil, they'll get a brunt. They'll get a brunt. And it's nothing to fear. For you, my listeners, don't fear. It's a blessing. It's a gift. It's seconds. And it's amazing. It's overwhelming. In a good way. So keep that in mind. Always try to perfect it, but don't worry about it. So back to you. Because I do have to wrap this up and get to resting on my Sunday, as you have to rest on your Sunday as well. When you go for something, when you want to do something, you do not need another's approval, and you should never live by another's label. If you want to stay home this fall with your children, and you think you can work it out, you must ignore all the feedback and do it. If you want to go to work when you know that others will say you should be at home, you must do what is best for you. You are not here to live another's life. You are not here to serve another's agenda. You are here to create your own story, to create your own path, to empower yourself, to achieve your own goals, to achieve your own successes, to achieve your own healing, to achieve your greatest life. And the only way for you to achieve your greatest life is to break through your glass ceiling, to break through your imposed glass ceiling. Not somebody else's, yours. So I admire Kamala Harris. Because yes, hello, she's ambitious. You don't become a vice presidential nominee unless you're ambitious. Do you think they knock on your door and say, "Hey, you, eating the Cheetos on the sofa, I know you don't have any ambitions, but could you go and be a part of this nomination and help me out?" And the person picks up their napkin, wipes off their cheesy mouth and says, "Sure." No, it's not how it goes. You have to be ready for what you're asked to do. You have to be ready. You have to be experienced. You have to be intelligent. You have to have the gumption. You have to have the courage. That takes a lot in a person. whether you like a personality or not. And so I like it. I like it. And I love Jimmy Carter, our president from 50, 60 years ago. No, 40 years ago. Sorry, Jimmy. Sorry, Mr. President, I should say. He serves every day. He's in his 90s. And he's still trying to build houses. He still prays for all of us. He's still honest. I admire people who serve. I admire people who overcome their obstacles. My own mother overcame obstacles. I admire her. She is my greatest female role model. She could have stopped right where she began, but she said no. And had a whole different life, but she said no. I'm going to give myself better. She is amazing. You are a child of God. You are created in the likeness and image of your Creator. You are told every day, challenged every day that you are not. Every day you're told you should go for less. You should expect less. That life is hard. That you have to work hard for the money. That others are getting more than you. That there's not enough to go around. That life isn't fair. You're told this every day. That you have to make choices. You're being lied to. You're being lied to. You are powerful. Resources are unlimited. All you have to do is ask. Ask and you shall receive. There is a flow that you are supposed to be a part of. You give, you receive 10 times. You give, you receive 10 times. You give, you receive 10 times. That is it. If you give 10 times, you receive 50 times. It's a flow. There's more than enough to go around. All you have to do is answer the call to service. How do you serve? By going for your dreams. By being kind to others. By being grateful. And guess what? Guess what, listeners? Life is amazing and beautiful. We're all making it harder than it is. You will one day get to look at it from an abstract, third-party point of view, and you will say, oh my goodness, it was awesome. It was better than I thought. And you will be correct. Keep that in mind through your trials and tribulations. Right now, you have the power, the God-given power, to rule your government. We all wear the crown. We went from one crown here in America to all of us wearing crowns. By the people, for the people. You have a voice. You have an ability. It doesn't matter if you are mobile. It doesn't matter how old you are. You have the power today to create your future. It is not any different than that. There is no need to worry about what others are doing. You do you. You do you. And everything else on the outside will be taken care of. as long as you do you, with a big smile and a warm heart, and your ambition includes goodness for others, you can go for it all. And if you don't go for it all, you are letting down the very source that created you. Because that source created you in order for the joy of watching you create. Yes, we are a creation experiment. It's asked of me, why did we get created? Why did God create us? For the pure joy of watching us create. So if you're sitting at home, worried about money, worried about the election, worried about what your neighbor is doing, worried about a fireworks going to go off and hurt my dog. That was kind of a low mark, but I'm only talking about my neighborhood. We worry about that around here on weekends. If you're worried about anything, you are not living up to the full potential of what the God that created you knew that you have. Worry about nothing and get to work. Start doing what you love. Start eating right. Start walking sometimes, or any exercise. If you can't walk, stretch. Start smiling, start laughing more. Start announcing that you are living your ideal life. I am doing that. I am this. Honor it. Own it. Live it. Stand up. Be counted. That is why you're here. And all of us light workers are counting on you, because when you do that, you're a light worker. And keep the divisiveness. And I don't mean the truth, as long as you're posting truth. Try not to be divisive. Be good trouble. Good trouble. You can point out where things are not just. But be very careful. Make sure you're a light worker. All right? Think about that. Light workers have good lives. But we're also the caregivers. Serve yourself first, and then with your reserves, serve others. And you have the keys to the kingdom of heaven. You cannot go wrong. Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me for this spiritual rant on this beautiful, wet Sunday morning. I hope I didn't lose too many of you by touching a nerve. But in a way, I also hope I touched a nerve to make you think. We are all in this together, people. We're all in this together. Be on the right side of your soul, your spirit, and of mankind. Choose your side carefully, because sometimes it's reversed. What you think is the right side is reversed. So be very careful. It is not my right to tell you which side to choose. I have to honor your free will. I only will say to you, we welcome you, we light workers. The light workers of this world welcome you, but the work of yours must be light. So, to redirect anger, redirect hopelessness, redirect into hope, change, openness, love, redirect. And this world will change even faster for for the better. It's going to happen whether you try to stop it or not. By the way, the ones who are trying to stop change, the ones who are trying to stop everything that's happening, they won't be able to. They won't be able to. But we can all come together to make it easier, faster, greater. So keep that in mind. Thank you again. Many blessings to you. And I hope you have a wonderful, joy-filled, and miracle-filled week. Please be sure to visit my website again, lisahop.com. I'm also doing hypnosis at this time. If you're interested, it can be done by Zoom or in person, preferably in person. So it would be for those more in the area. I'm also going to be starting a new YouTube channel called The Haunted Suitcase, a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. Stay tuned for information on that as well. Thank you so much, and have a very good one, a very good Sunday.